So I wanted to make a video talking about a topic that has been revelatory to me and I think is really important to consider whether you kind of agree with the general principles of this perspective of health in the body or not. I would still encourage you to be open to it and to consider it and to play with it. And that is around our relationship that we have with a disease that we might have, with symptoms that we might have, a particular part of our body where maybe we experience pain or some kind of struggle or difficulty. And what I find so fascinating about considering this relationship and this idea is to really tap into like the way that the symptoms are making you feel. And this perspective, just to preface a little bit, is kind of based on, I've been studying the framework of Dr. Homer and the Germanic healing framework for a few years, and I'm studying a modality called Biodecoding at the moment, which is also based on that framework but has its departures as well. It's not 100% in alignment with all of Dr. Homer's ideas, but the basic kind of principles for the most part, yes. And yeah, it's the same for me. I don't necessarily understand or agree or find interesting like every detail or every facet of the Germanic healing framework, but the foundational principles and the basic just kind of premise of it I find fascinating and just, true for me, and something that I'm wanting to just understand and know more and more in an embodied and experiential way in my own life by actually bringing these ideas to my own experience and seeing what unfolds and what's here to learn about myself if I apply them and I'm open to them and I'm willing to shift this relationship that I want to talk about today. So the premise that we're coming from is also that every expression of the body is an adaptation in response to some kind of conflictual experience that we've had. Something that is without resolve, that didn't get resolved in the moment, something that we experienced in a moment of emotional isolation, something that was unexpected and could be intense, but I also feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be intense when we're talking about these conflictual experiences. It's not equal to trauma. A traumatic event could create an adaptation within the body and it also could not. And also minor things could create an adaptation in the body and could not. So for me, we work with the symptom, like the symptom is the truth and the symptom is the line back to the truth of the experience and the truth of the moment, rather than sort of conceptually trying to know that, or I don't know, understand in a moment of like, oh, was that a conflict that's going to lead to an adaptation or not? So it's based on this foundation that the symptoms are an adaptation, that they're doing something for us, that they're also compensating for something like a need that wasn't met in a moment. And it's a survival strategy basically. And the specific nature of that conflict is going to determine which tissue, which organ, what the sort of nature of the conflict was is going to determine which biological program is set forth and therefore which adaptation is going to occur. And that's a lot. I understand that, it could take a lot of time to really explain that more, and I'll try and do that in a different video, and then I'll link it to this one and do that thing that we do. But for here, I just want to really talk about this idea of when we actually already at the point where we have the symptom. And my belief and understanding and perception is that mostly, in general, the way people respond to symptoms is with resistance, and that makes sense because they're usually not comfortable and we've been told, something's gone wrong, you know, all the stories like, oh, I'm run down, I haven't looked after myself, or I injured myself, I didn't, you know, all this mysterious, you know, I've got this gene, this thing completely out of my control, you know, now I have this scary thing called cancer or arthritis or, you know, whatever it might be. And also things that aren't necessarily so big and scary, like just getting acne or having a cold or having a sore leg, or, you know, I don't know, something that's just, you know, also minor, but some kind of expression of the body, something that we're feeling and noticing. And this major shift in the way that we can actually relate to the symptoms, I think, holds so much power and so much potential. Because even if the initial, I mean, quite often, if not always, the initial input that's creating a conflict is an external source. Like something happens, we lose our job, we get in a fight with someone, we don't like a situation that we're in, we get told some horrible criticism, or, you know, feel attacked by someone in our friendship group or a stranger, or, you know, whatever. Something's happened, we've perceived it in a certain way, we've subconsciously made it mean a certain thing about ourselves, it's triggered some of our beliefs that we have programmed into us from our childhood experiences, and our body is finding no other way to get the thing that it needs in that moment, and so it needs to adapt. And so much, if not always, I don't know for sure, but let's just say a lot of the time, the quality of that initial conflict, feeling attacked, devaluing ourselves, feeling threatened in some way, a threat to our survival, the experience of the symptoms is also going to replicate and sort of echo that same theme, that same feeling. So let me just give an example, because it probably make what I'm trying to say much clearer. But so, for example, if we are experiencing acne or pimples or some kind of, that sort of expression, especially like, let's say, on our face, and that's to do with out the deeper layer of our skin, and that particular conflict is to do with an attack conflict, or also could be feeling soiled or dirty or disfigured, or an attack in my image, especially on the face. So if you can imagine, like, who experiences this mostly, it happens mostly to teenagers. What's happening when we're a teenager? We're suddenly changing, our hormones are changing, we're becoming sexually more activated, which means our perception of ourselves in relation to other people and how we're perceived is greatly increased. Like, we're much more, aware relationally of this sort of perception of ourselves. And just feeling weird and awkward in our bodies, and self-esteem, and, peer pressure, and, all the dynamics and craziness of that time. So it would be so easy to feel attacked in my image at that time. A boy makes a comment, a girl makes a comment, we just look in the mirror and we're all looking a little bit weird because our body's changing, whether it's something very direct or even just like the perception that we're having of ourselves. But it could be very easily that something is said that's creating this thing of, I feel attacked. And then the expression of that is our skin breaking out. And that's actually the body like repairing from that feeling of being attacked, the adaptation that happened, which is to create little protective places on our face, little shields. And then we look in the mirror and we see red and pus and whatever. And what do you think we feel? Attacked in our image. We feel soiled, we feel dirty. And so that very flavor of experience that was part of the initial, whatever happened initially to trigger this adaptation, is also the flavor of our reaction to the expression in our body. And in this way, we keep ourselves in a loop. It becomes a self-triggering conflict. Like, we don't need the external thing to happen anymore, because like every time we look in the mirror, we're activating again and again and again this same feeling and this same conflict within ourselves. And like another example could be self-devaluation in terms of the muscles in the body. So something happens, we don't feel like we perform well enough. Say we're someone who's going to the gym all the time and we are feeling kind of competitive, or either with other people or just with our own, personal best. And we're sort of pushing ourselves, and there's this experience of like, I didn't perform, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable. And then the next day we wake up and we've got some pain in our body, which is the expression of self-devaluation in the healing phase. And how's that going to make us feel? Even less capable, even more devalued. Like maybe we have to have time from going to the gym. Maybe, it becomes an injury or something that we think like we've hurt ourselves, and we have to take time off, and then we've like lost the strength that we had, and everything's, we're just not performing anywhere near where we used to. And again, it's this cycle of every time I feel the pain in my body, I feel incapable. I feel like a sense of a loss of value in myself and my ability to perform, which is what the muscles are specifically linked to. So yeah, they're just two simple examples that I hope kind of make more sense of this idea of a triggering, self-triggering conflict. And so basically our biggest access of power is to change that. Like, we can actually completely change how we are interacting, how we feel about what's expressing in our body. And just knowing this information already can help shift it, just help us sort of, be way more curious and attuned to like, okay, well, when I have a cold, like just this feeling of resistance that already comes up with feeling sick or feeling pain or feeling incapacitated in some way. Like, I think that's universal, to have an initial reaction. I mean, we're so conditioned to that, and the way it sort of inhibits us from performing and living our life and doing the things we want to do, and that it's uncomfortable. It makes sense. But this initial, even if we just simplify it to like two basic responses that can be resistance and surrender, or openness, or whatever that sort of opposite energy feels best to describe. But I think probably something like surrender is the most accurate for the opposite thing of resistance. So we can just begin there to start with, is like already like, oh, okay, there's this thing happening in my body. Can I choose not to immediately resist and be open? And then maybe I can even go deeper and be like, how is it actually making me feel? What experience could this be linked to? Then we can sort of also open up this whole world of exploration and sort of trying to tap into more our subconscious experience and perception, and what it might be linked to, because it could be something like very far in the past, as like the very initial time when we felt this, and then there's been subsequent kind of triggers of it throughout our life. And I don't think we have to know always exactly what those triggers are. I think it can be helpful to kind of, or to know what those experiences and the conflicts are. But just to start with this initial principle of shifting our relationship and feeling like our body is actually healing, it's in the repair phase, nothing is going wrong. Like, just to really come into this energy of supporting our body, of supporting our healing process, of being more peaceful and calm and gentle with ourselves and around what we're experiencing. And I know that's really easier said than done in the moment when maybe we're experiencing like pain or something, but even just micro moments of shift, I think, can make a huge difference. And it just takes away also so much fear that something's gone wrong and I need to do all these things now to try and like fix it or heal, or like take all these things, and taking things like some kind of supplement, or I don't know, vitamin C, or drinking a ginger tea if you've got a sore throat, like none of that's wrong. I don't think they're the solution, but if they feel supportive, then anything that can support you in supporting your body. But I think the biggest thing we can do to actually shift back into a state of health and feeling vibrant and fully able, to be and express ourselves and be in the world is this mental shift. And even if we can get there or get close to feeling some kind of gratitude for our body and what it's doing for us, and just completely shifting the way that we're relating to our symptoms. And if we feel willing to and curious enough to even dive deeper into like what is here, what is this like specific flavor, and do I feel attacked, do I feel a fear of dying, do I feel I don't like this, I don't want this, do I feel I'm not good enough, like, and even more subtle and specific and deeper within those more general kind of frames of theme or experience. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say for now. And if you're curious about this, watch more of my videos on my channel. I'm going to make more and more. I'm really excited about this biodecoding method that really helps us just easily kind of tap back to these conflicts and understanding what our beliefs are, what our needs are, what resources we needed in the moment that we didn't have. And we can do that now. We can go back and heal things. The brain doesn't realize that it's not happening in the moment, and we can completely transform ourselves. And it's actually quite simple. So much love.